Hello, everybody. After my last live, I mentioned a date that Bryan Kohberger talked about in his Tappa Talk chats regarding visual snow syndrome and all the symptoms he had. And I said there was a date that he felt everything changed after that, and that I always wanted to know why and what that date represented. I felt maybe it was something traumatic. And I believe it was Lori or Blue Murphy, one of my subscribers said, and I'm sorry if I'm not remembering the name, but one of them said, he thought it might have been he mentioned something to do with Topamax, and Topamax is the brand name, the generic name is topiramate, and that's typically used to treat either migraines, seizure disorders, mood disorders, and because of the side effect of weight loss, it's been marketed for that as well. And Topamax does have some interesting effects on memory. And I mentioned that when I took it years back for a short time period, that I noticed that I had difficulty remembering certain words. It was almost as if I was a stroke victim or something. It was very bizarre. So, but that side effect went away. But that was me, and, curious that the Topamax came up, and it had me thinking, I should go back and just look through more of the basically more of the, um, Tapa Talk and see what he's saying in his own words, read all of them instead of just a couple. I didn't realize they were all up and still available. And so I think the best way to get to know Bryan Kohberger is to, read his own words. And while these were all written quite some time ago, I think it was back in 2011 or 2009, they were his own words. And so if you can remember when you were, say, 14 years old or 15 years old, and I most definitely have vivid memories of when I was that age, you would know, well, you may have felt a certain way, had certain ideas and things, but imagine yourself at that age writing some of the things that I'm going to start to read. Hi, Bunny. Thanks for being here. I'm going to go over Bryan Kohberger's Tappa Talk in more depth because I never really did. And apparently, they're all still available online. So I'm going to start reading through them. And I was inspired to do it because I really want to know why he mentioned a specific date that everything changed for him. And then one of my subscribers in the last live said he had mentioned something about Topamax. So we'll go ahead and go through those. But the other reason that it sparked my interest is because I don't know if you guys knew this. I personally didn't know it until just this evening. Luigi Mangione and Bryan Kohberger both share a rare neurological disorder that affects their vision, also known as visual snow syndrome. That's really odd, right, guys? Because it's like 3% of the entire population, which is still a lot, but that's a pretty small percentage. And then you've got two guys, both with bushy eyebrows. Definitely Luigi's eyebrows are much bushier than Bryan's, but regardless, he's got more of a furrowed brow. It's more of a skeletal issue for Bryan, I think, with the eyebrows. Luigi's just got the huge eyebrows, like caterpillar brows. Anyway, both being accused of these bizarre and horrific acts. One is obviously the Idaho 4 we've been following, and then the other is Luigi Mangione allegedly shot the CEO in broad daylight or whatever in New York City, right? Very odd case if you've been following it, but wow, who knew? So interesting. that they both share this rare neurological disorder. And so after that, I was like, that's it. I got to go and get into those Tappa talks and go through what Bryan is saying here, because it's him, guys, in his own words. And you know what? I bet you other creators have done this, and I'm just late to the game. But like, wow, I should probably read what Bryan wrote about himself and what he was going through. So that's what's going on, guys. And I'm going to go through those now. Alrighty. So give me 1 second. Actually, I should probably share the screen. There we go. All right. So, all right, let's do this. All right. Okay, so I just want to show you guys what we're looking at here. All right. It's basically Bryan's Tappa Talk chats. And his name, in Tappa Talk was XR. It's XR, those with visual snow, I think. Hold on, let me just verify. Yeah, XR, those with visual snow. Exonerate those with visual snow. So that's an interesting term to use there. It's an interesting term for him to use. Yeah, it was a message board. Yep, it's a message board. And essentially, he joined in 2009. Okay, so in 2009, he joined, and he was not like the beginning. He wasn't the person who started it or whatever, it's been there. There were other people already there. And we're going to go through some of these symptoms, and we're going to talk about what these people might be suffering from. And there's a lot of interesting perspectives, I think, to be had here. All right, so let's start. I went back. Apparently, he has 118 post matches here. So I just went back to the oldest one to see what he said the first time that he came on here. And he's saying, hold on. It's as if the static gets bright after looking into a light and adjusting to darkness. I can't see in the dark because of this. Do you ever see these random dots of light in your vision? Do you seem to see visual snow make stuff blurry? Hard to see even with vision correction? Are your eyes sensitive to light? Did this happen after a migraine? Does this ever make you feel less aware? Do you have tinnitus? Do you feel like you can't see because the severity? Does it get better from healthy living? Does the VS get bright after working out? Does it sometimes go away completely, mostly, and come back after, though? Did you come to think this is a mental disorder for migraine sufferers? Am I the only one who has a hard time seeing faces because of the VS? Do you sometimes have the ability to see everything clear like I do? Does time go fast? Do you take the time to feel good, relaxed? Do you feel hopeless? After looking at a bright light, do you see a lot of dots that are rainbow? Major question. Can migraine auras cause this? I know that the visual sensitivity to light had to do with it, but after the migraine meds, Is it possible this will disappear after a while? I am 15 in 21 days, and I don't want to wish I'm dead because of this horrible thing. Other questions. Do you ever feel like you can't see something, though you can? Do you think the stuff I am talking about with not being able to see well in the dark has to do with my eyes retaining light? Do you think that I can't see faces clearly sometimes because there's too much glare from the light sensitivity? I know sometimes it is gone. Any recommended diets? Can someone with severe VS like me please tell me how I can succeed in this life with this? Do you feel depersonalized? Do you see a fingerprint in your closed eye vision? Okay. All words directly from Bryan Kohberger. Hey, True Killer. What up, what up, what up? So, everything I just read was the first post that Bryan Kohberger made on Tappa Talk, and that was on November. Let me see. I don't want to get it wrong. That was on November 1st, 2009. And he's 14 years old, and he's upset because he's having these bizarre symptoms. He thinks it's related to migraine meds that he took. And so I believe that date that I always had a question about is in regards to that. And someone in my chat earlier, one of my subscribers, made me realize that. So I thank them. All right, so let's go to his next post. Hold on for 1 second. I'm going to go back. Okay. This is his next post. And this is an interesting one. Oh boy. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's about. I'm bundled too. You guys, you'll find this one interesting. There's no innuendo being made here, but someone named Dago, spelled Dago, responds to Bryan here. So let's check it out. This was his next post. Bryan says, "What is this? I keep waking up with severe VS as all I can see, and every time it goes away slightly, but now it just is sort of the same. All I can see is after images and visual snow. What the fuck? This is making vision worse. This can't just keep up without a medical reason." Exclamation point, Bryan says. And I'm just going to read the response that the person named Dago, who joined here August 13th, 2009, spelled Dago with a Donald Duck face. He says, "Well, obviously there's a medical reason. We just don't know what it is. How long did it mostly take to go away when you woke up? Hours or minutes or seconds?" And Bryan says, "Usually 30 seconds. It got better now from that. So it took 4 hours this time. LOL." That's Bryan's response. Okay. November 6th, 2009. All right. All right. So let's see what he says next, guys. All right. This one is entitled Sleep Pattern. And he says, the night makes me just feel bored for some odd reason. The visual snow doesn't do shit. But I do wake up in the middle of the night, though. That is not really new. So, nope. I think maybe he was answering a question there. Let's see if this was. Maybe there was something I missed up here where somebody probably asked a question and he's responding to it. And I guess he's saying that hasn't been the issue for him. All right, so then let me go back here and back again. All right, then on, oh, that was the one I already read. The Dago talked to him. All right, and then it says visual snow and peripheral vision. Sometimes newly, so it will probably increase. In my peripheral vision, mostly left, it seems to flicker. Something major is wrong with me. I'm just gonna say right now, and hopefully, you know, this is just like seems like it's hypochondriasis. It seems like someone who is very anxious, like he's come to this visual snowboard with these complaints, but I mean, if someone is a hypochondriac, you trust me, because as a medical provider, I've seen a lot of patients, and I would never diagnose someone with hypochondriasis, but there are people, in fact, most people really don't go to the doctors. That's the truth, if we're going to be honest. The people that go to the doctors are the smart ones who get like their cancer screens and their regular blood work and updates. And then the rest are people who are anxious types and worried about things, and they come in worried about all sorts of things. Sometimes they're real things, sometimes they're imagined things. But a lot of people solve their medical issues on their own and don't go to the doctor, don't really need to. The people who are more anxious are the ones that are gonna show up. It's just the way it is. And they'll complain about very bizarre symptoms. If he came in to talk to me saying this symptoms he's describing, I would work him up, definitely, because of his age and the history of migraines, no doubt. A neurological evaluation was needed for this, and I hope he got what he deserved, which would have been like full MRI with an MRA, looking for any sorts of issues, and a neurologist, a full evaluation, of the brain, because and the eye, a full ophthalmological exam, those kind of things. I hope and pray he got those things. He deserved those things and should have gotten them. Whether his parents went through bankruptcy or not, which to me matters not. uh, they did have full-time jobs and they probably had benefits. So he would have been able to get worked up for this, and I hope he did. Because otherwise he's just an anxious kid focusing on things. I mean, I didn't have the computer at my age, but I had some weird things come into my head. In some ways, I'm glad I wasn't able to look it up. Curiosity can kill the cat sometimes, right? All right. So either way, I believe what he's saying. It's just that how much does it matter if it's lasting for 30 seconds? Well, now he's noticing it's lasting for 4 hours, right? So let's keep going and see what else happens here. All right. He says, it seems to be in my left eye peripheral, flickering, like when you look at the sky, but it's ignorable. I thought I was losing the vision, but nah, it's just the flickering, lol. And he says, peripheral VS, when you look up at the sky and it is severe, do you ever experience that in your peripheral vision? I don't. I noticed it and thought I had some light in the vision, but it was just the snow flickering like usual. Let me just read this one again, guys, because this is a very odd, uh, it's a very odd post, in my opinion, and no one responded to it. He says, this is Bryan Kohberger's own words on November 7th, 2009. When you look up at the sky, and it is severe. I don't know what that means. When you look at the sky and it is severe, okay, his condition. So if the condition, the VS is very severe, and he looks up at the sky, he wants to know if other people experience that in your peripheral vision. I don't know what that refers to. And then he says, I noticed it and thought I had some light in the vision, but it was just the snow flickering like usual. Boo boo, I'm sorry, couldn't follow the rest of that. The sentence was a run on sentence. There was too much. I had you in the beginning, but once you use the word that, I don't know what you're referencing there. So, anyway, regardless, this poor kid, okay? He's so distraught over these visual issues, and he's seeking help. All right, so then let's go back. All right, here we are, November 8th. Bryan Kohberger in his very own words. Visual snow spreading amazingly to left peripheral, so bad that it is like there's a light over it and it distorts stuff. It is 24/7. So since Bryan has joined Tapatalk, which, by the way, he joined on November 1st, 2009, 11, 1, 2, 9. I mean, anyway, they love the nines and the ones, they really do. They just always love the nines and the ones. It's all a code, guys. It's crazy. I don't know how the pieces fit, but it just seems to be very clear now. Sorry. He says it's 24/7, but I feel like it's deteriorating my peripheral vision. It started after I woke up with severe VS. I think that maybe there's a pill that will at least stop this stupid side VS. It is almost like there's a film with like a black shade with flickering over my eye, and it is not even there in my right periphery. Please help, because this is not just VS. It is like a flickering black bit. Like when you look at the sky, I was forgetting about it and not worried, but now it's new. So WTF. And thankfully, this person says, have you seen an ophthalmologist or a neuro-ophthalmologist? And if so, what'd they say? And this is an excellent, informed question. So happy it was asked. Let's see what he says. This person offers some moral support. Hi, XR. Try not to stress about it. I know it's easier said than done when it's your eyes and you can't escape from it for even a second of the day, but it will help you a lot if you just tell yourself that everything's going to be okay. I know what you're going through sucks real bad, but you just have to talk yourself into believing that it's not as bad as it seems. Your vision might not be better, but at least you will feel much better. I've been having crazy flickering in my side vision also for about 12 months now. Do you have floaters, flashes, or negative after images? Have you had a visual field vision test? So, there's people that are relating to him. Does he answer this question though? And this person says, from your title, it sounds like a migraine. And I agree. It does sound like he may be having a neurologic migraine or an ophthalmological migraine. There's all different words for it, but 100% I agree. But migraines don't last 24/7, and he is very, very obsessed with these symptoms. And again, I'm not saying that they're not causing problems for him, but sometimes this kind of stuff can really just show up. And when you focus on it too much and obsess about it, I've seen people make themselves not be able to walk, make themselves literally sick. So, All right, so let's go back to this. Okay, now we're going to move to the next one. Okay, so what does Bryan say on November 9th, 2009? Who else has this happen? On the left side of your peripheral vision, there's like a point where you pass something and it gets deformed slightly as if something flickers over it. I can feel this somehow in my eye, but I will be seeing a neurologist in 4 days. And since I saw an eye doctor a month ago and no eye condition develops like that, don't tell me to see one. Yes, I saw an ophthalmologist and an optometrist or WE, whatever. It could be that you are just aware of your blind spot. Everyone has one. I can see mine, but my husband can't see his. So I guess it depends how special you are. Do an internet search on blind spots and see if that's what you were asking. Now, this is a really interesting question that she proposes because she's like, so I guess it depends how special you are. These We do know that some people, particularly Olivia, she must have read through all of these because she seems to think that he feels like he's special or odd in some way. This person is sort of alluding to that actually. This person, for the second time now, is offering rational advice too, despite the little snark about how special you are, because the detective clearly thinks she is quite special. So there is a little rivalry there. Interesting. Um, but it's been verified, Bryan, in his own words, did see a ophthalmologist and an optometrist and is going to see a neurologist in 4 days. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so that was November 9th, and he was not on again for almost 11 months after that. I think the girl with her questions about, medical things, she was just cutting to the chase. And so I think that basically got him off the track. Now he comes back 11 months later and he says, I can't remember anything. This is September 23rd, 2010, Bryan Kohberger in his very own words. I can't remember anything recent or anything from childhood. I used to be able to remember everything from my childhood and everything every day for a month before me. Now I'm just a blank soul living in the now. What hurts the most is knowing that every time I try to remember things from the past, I can't. And my mind is so hung up with VS, all the migraine versus VS affects mentally the buzzing in my ear that I can't even focus on that. He mentions buzzing in the ear. Just want to highlight that. I got it September 21st of last year. So he's coming on here a year after he got it. So he got it September 21st, 2009. So 9/21/2009. And he joined this forum September 21st. He joined this forum and this group, the VS group, November 1st, 2009. And so he was suffering with it for maybe a month or so. I wonder how he got to that forum. I wonder if it was recommended to him by someone, you know? It's the type of stuff I think about, but who knows? Anyway. Whoops. Yes, I get that. Yes, when I'm gonna pass out, it's a very high pitched. In fact, right before I pass out, I will. Right before I pass out, I can. I got to a point one time I thought it so bad, passing out, that I had no blood supply to my head. That's what happens. So you start to lose your hearing and your vision. And I was still walking. That was a really bad idea. I probably fucking gave myself some brain damage that day. That was stubborn. I was working in the ER at that time, and I didn't want people to see that something had made me so upset that I was going to pass out. And it had nothing to do with any gore. It had to do with the age of the patient. But I want to move on from that. All right. So let's get back. Thanks for coming in, Bones. Hi, Brian Todd. Where are you? Um, Boo Boo. I don't know. I don't know where I am either. I'm still trying to figure out where the hell I am. I don't know where we are. So, okay. So let's go back to Tappa Talk. Okay. He says, I can't remember anything at all, and I always have this horrible pressure in my head. My mind is never not on visual snow, and I always wonder what a normal person would be doing while I sit there and suffer. This whole thing has made me crazy. I feel like my life is pointless because people can think about times with parents, childhood memories, and be happy, and I won't be able to. This is a really interesting. I mean, just to break I could spend hours breaking this down, but I wanna get through these things because 'cause they're so interesting. Um, but genuinely, he's depressed now, he says. He's complaining about ringing in the ear, buzzing in the ear, called tinnitus. A lot of people call it tinnitus, but it's pronounced tinnitus, at least in medical speak where I live, put it that way. Um, but you can pronounce it however you like. I'm not gonna fight about it. He's complaining about this visual snow, which has progressed. He does not feel like a normal person. He's suffering. And what bothers him quite a bit, and he mentioned it for the first time here, is this um, uh, inability to remember childhood things with his parents and be happy. Okay. That's an interesting thing to be upset about at the age of 15 years old. Genuinely. All right. So let's go. This patient, I'm sorry, this patient, pardon me. This person says spleen harvester. Oh, great name. They sound friendly. I've actually noticed this memory thing too. What I find is on the spot, I can't remember a thing, but if someone reminds me of a memory, it'll be there. Maybe it's an anxiety thing, dare I say. Say it. Who can say? It's a good point. I don't like his name still though. If you literally cannot remember your childhood and this is a new symptom, you need to go to the doctor. If your recent memories, say, of yesterday are so foggy that it's affecting the way you function in life, you also need to go to the doctor. Those types of memory loss are serious and could indicate any number of medical problems, some of which are also serious. That's one of those make an appointment now type of things. I love this person. I freaking love this person. So Pulley Susie, tell him, girl. If, on the other hand, you're more forgetful than usual or have a harder time keeping things in your head, this is also worth mentioning to the doctor. And then she talks about the things that can cause it: stress, anxiety, poor sleep, being sick, doing too many things at once, cognitively overtaxed, which I think can also be added to by having to constantly make sense of a world that doesn't look like it's supposed to. Offering a and I love it because she straight up tells them, "Yo, if this is actually the truth and you're not exaggerating, call your doctor now. Do not stop." Right? But then she reassures and says, "Look, can be a lot of things that aren't anything bad." And then she identifies and says, "It can last from minutes to maybe an hours, likely due to a seizure or a very profound migraine aura. According to my doctors, in one case, my working memory was very impaired and it lasted for weeks. The doctors think this was part of my MS, likely multiple sclerosis. I'm really hoping it doesn't come back." All right, so then let's see. Go back. And Just want to say hi to the chat. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hi, RJ Embry. Funny name. True Killer. Just saying hi to everybody. Bones, Bunny. Okay, so let's get back to the Tappa Talk. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger in his own words. All right, so hold on for a second. Wait, I want to go back for 1 minute. It's interesting. So on the September 23rd thing, when he says this time another person steps forward and basically gives him the business, right? But he doesn't respond. He waits. Let's see, September 2011. He waits, looks like 6 months. All right, now here he says. All right, so I'm trying to find the origin of this. Ooh, okay. Okay. I think this might be interesting because Bryan identifies with this person. So let's hear this person's story, okay? Nickel. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry. Gosh. Sorry. I'll be right back, guys. I'm sorry. All right. So this guy. All right. So this guy is Nickel, and it says, and I'm reading this because Bryan Kohberger responds to it by identifying with it. Hey guys, I've been a lurker for a little while now, just seeing what was going on, and now I feel I should share my experience with this, so here goes. This person, Mickle, wrote it on January 12th, 2011. And Bryan hasn't responded or been on here for like 7 months, but he's clearly lurking and reading as well. In early 2008, I developed TMJ, which is temporomandibular joint, from bruxism at night, and around the same time noticed slight visual changes when my facial muscles were overly tense. Things like vertical lines would sort of vibrate, but it stopped at that no snow that I can remember or after images. About the same time I first tried cannabis. Even though I was very anti-drug since I play a lot of sports and I am quite athletic. And it instantly relieved my jaw pain, which is where it all changed. I stupidly got into the habit of doing it regularly, thinking nothing of it, as it was the only thing that actually made my jaw feel relaxed at the time. It then just became habit, not a good one. Fast forward to 2010. I saw that it was actually doing to me instead of easing my jaw, it was just giving me anxiety. Things just slipped by me and I regret, but I made my mistake. I won't repeat it. So I decided to quit, but had no idea how it would affect me. The first few days, fine. Then one night, while trying to fall asleep, I had my first ever panic attack. I thought I was about to die. I felt like I was falling every time I was about to fall asleep. The next day, I awoke to visual snow and extreme derealization. Felt like I was trapped inside my head, and this led me to Googling all sorts and finding those forums plus many others and reading up on what was happening to me. The next month was horrible derealization anxiety, and my vision was like I was under a layer static. It overlaid everything. Seemed very flat and weird. After reading up, I assumed this was how it was going to stay. After about 2 months, though, my anxiety and brainy dog began maybe brain fog. Sorry, brain fog began to get better, and with that, so did the derealization, the static. Oh my gosh, excuse me, guys. You're really interrupting my life twice now. I'm in the middle of something kind of important. Oh my goodness, you're driving me nuts. I can't. I can't. Sorry, guys. It's like, can I have a life sometimes? I don't- Yes, I already said yes. Sorry, I'm not. I don't want to. I'm grateful. I just sometimes you just want to do your own thing. And it's like you just can't. All right. So, all right. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry. It's okay. My favorite job is this. So, all right. So, okay. The next day, I woke to visual snow. An extreme derealization. Felt like I was trapped inside my head, and this led me to Googling all sorts and finding these forums, plus many others, and reading up on what was happening to me. Okay, so sorry. Okay. 2 months of my anxiety, okay, brain fog began to get better, and with that, so did the derealization, the static calmed down. Until one day, I can't remember exactly, but the static was different. It was slower, it looked less like a curtain. Wow, these people really are focusing on their vision. The only time I can see a grainy type to my vision is in the pitch black, but I seem to remember this as how it always was, and my friends and parents see the same. It's unlike how it was when I had full blown snow where I couldn't see well in the dark. Wow. Sorry it's a bit long winded, but instead of just typing, my snow is gone, I felt like I should explain my full story. Anyway, I know this probably has many causes and is very stressful, and people seem to have it a lot worse than I did and still do. And my thoughts really do go out to you because it's truly horrible. Just wanted to try and give even one person some hope that maybe from them it will go away. If that's all that comes of this, I'm happy. One common thread I'm seeing in all of this, one common thread I'm seeing in all of this is that these people have empathy. Are you guys noticing that? Yeah, I think there is. There's like a visual snow documentary, right? Thanks for being here, guys. Of course, we don't hear you, but we see the words on the screen, Brian Todd. So, thank you. I know, right? I know it. All right. All right. I love this exchange right here where Brian Todd says, I love you guys. And then Bone says, Brian Todd, love you. And then he says, empathy is underrated. Yes, it's the manifestation of our empathetic feelings becoming pain and problems. The body keeps the score. Sure does. If you're crying, it's okay. I cry too. I cry too. So it's okay to cry. But I will tell you that my North Korean mother-in-law told me, well, she's not currently my mother-in-law because I'm no longer married to that person, but she told me there was a saying in Korea that if you cry and you laugh at the same time. You know how sometimes you start crying and then you kind of start laughing? Someone tries to cheer you up or whatever. That feathers will come out of your butt. So, Brian Todd, it's okay if you're crying. Just try not to laugh at the same time. Feathers may come out of your butt, according to my North Korean mother in law. You know what? I do. I do have to read it. I haven't read it and I've heard of it. The Body Keeps the Score. That's the name of it, Bones? Okay. Love Fest up in here. It's the Love Shack. Remember that song from the B-52s? Don't be sorry. We know you're here. No sorries when you didn't do nothing wrong. No sorries. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, as a former or as a sober for 7 years from alcohol, I can tell you that crying was something I never allowed myself to do, ever. I couldn't cry. What was the point of that? Why I just gotta keep stuffing that shit down, funneling vodka. Don't cry. Don't listen to sad songs. Don't contemplate things. Just stuff it down and funnel vodka, right? And that at some point that stops working. You either die or you recover, right? So I recovered. Thank you to all of the people that supported and helped me, including number one, God. Okay. But the point I'm trying to make is now when I feel like I want to cry, oh, I just cry. I'll sob. I'll put on a song to cry too because I know it's got to come out. And I also know it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a healthy emotion to have. There's a lot of fucking pain and suffering going on in the world. And if you're the type of person who's sensitive, you take it in different ways from your environment locally and then globally. You feel the suffering, which is increasing. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So let it out, cry all those tears, let all that out. So important. Because afterwards it's a relief. You feel better. And then you can kind of meditate on what's happening and how you can kind of deal with deal with it, you know? I will tell you that this past few days, this full moon coming into I think it's a full moon coming into Leo right now. There's a lot of pain being dredged up to the surface. So if you've found that maybe the past week or so uh you have people I see you. I see you, boo boo. Um oh gosh, something's always going on with my ducking spell check, right? Duck spell check is what I say. Hey, what up? Woke up 1984. Okay, no feathers. Cool, cool. What up, guys? Yeah, so but what I was saying about the crying, right? Like we gotta just we gotta just let it out, you know? Just let out the cries. It's okay. We're all sensitive people with so much to give. Understand me, baby. What's that song? No, 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 gonna live. Oh, I love that song. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's okay to cry. It's good to cry. All right, so, oh, and then that's what I was talking about. The moon, guys, the moon. Holy cow. I really didn't believe a lot in horoscopes and astrology a few years back, but I will tell you over the past several years, I've been doing some studying of my own. No means an expert. would not do anybody's chart, nothing like that. But just kind of looking into stuff, following Val Evans, the undercover astrologer, who's excellent. I'm actually a member of her channel. Um, really convinced now that these things do make a difference, and you can really predict a lot of things. It still comes down to probabilities. There's always going to be probabilities because of, if you're aware of the double slit experiment, and how the observer effect changes things. And so when you have foreknowledge of things, it is helpful because now you've observed a potential event, you can choose a different path because it's a probabilistic type thing. But the stars up there do make a difference. Where the moon is does make a difference. There was a time before the moon was here, guys. There was an earth before there was a moon. And before the moon came, there was no gravity. So when the moon came, gravity started. And when gravity started, time became a thing, right? That's the kind of plane we're in, or the dimension, or whatever you want to think. Or it's what we're perceiving we're in. Most of us are perceiving we're in, right? Sure, there's some highly evolved people, somebody like Baron Trump, who are just like have some maybe other skills, right? But like we have governors on our senses, I believe, in this realm. And so our innate abilities are being suffocated, I believe. But let's get back to the moon. So without the moon, there was just the earth. But when the moon came, boy, did it create a big issue on the earth, because now there's gravity and there's time. So the phases of the moon make a difference. And this big moon on February 1st apparently is just like stirring a lot of shit up. So if you've had some family crises going on, or friendship crises going on, or shit feels like everything's falling apart and it's tenderizing your heart like it tenderized mine completely, which is an already tender, sensitive heart, right? Relief is coming, booze, because the full moon's passing soon. So, but that's what that was about, you know? I just figured that out recently. Actually, today, if I'm honest. All right, let's go back here. So this man just pours his heart and soul out. And so this pretty avatar Tessa says, "Thank you. We rarely get success stories. Truly, see how friendly and empathetic all these people are? Yes, thank you. I hope to hear many more stories like this." And then Bryan Kohberger, in his very own words, said, "I believe it was the anxiety that caused this for you. Same thing happened to me." Now, I want to see something here. Tinnitus. Does he mention tinnitus up here? I think he did. Hold on for a minute. I think it will be okay. I don't see him mentioning tinnitus up here. I'm scanning it and I don't see it. The reason I'm curious is because whenever Bryan comes on here, he does seem to get some very pointed questions. No, maybe. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. This guy's definitely talking to the author. All right, reading in too much. Have a habit of doing that sometimes. All right, anyway. So Bryan says, "I believe it was the anxiety that caused this for you. The same thing happened to me." So now he's telling this guy that anxiety caused it for him. The same thing happened to him. So let me just tell you in medical speak what that means to me, what he's saying without saying. Hello, Turquoise. Welcome. Happy to be here. We don't have any mods, but I appreciate you saying welcome to them. The reason I don't, honestly, is because everybody's just chill. Like we're all like everybody's cool here. You know what I mean? Same as Nancy Grace. Oh. Yeah, but the time matters. The time and place does matter in the birth chart. If I ever need a mod, I will definitely ask you, Bones. I promise. And if I forget, you can remind me. All right, so, but right now, I do like to, and you too, True Killer, you guys know. You guys know how I roll. Like all the OGs, of course, I'm gonna have do that. But right now, guys, like honestly, I don't need. You guys are all just very. You follow my rules. You're not dicks and you're not disrespectful. So like it's cool. But I do know things change if things if you have more people in chat and stuff. So don't worry, OGs. I got you, OGs. Love Giga OG. All you guys are the OGs in here. All right. All right. So he says, I believe it was the anxiety that caused this for you. Same thing to happen to me. So let's just review because he hadn't been on here for quite some time. He heard this guy tell a story. And the last time we had heard from Bryan was he was going to the neurologist. And now he is saying he believes what happened to him it was anxiety. He doesn't believe it. He thinks that what this guy's describing was all due to anxiety and panic, and the same thing happened to him. And just like Bones said, right? Oh, I don't know if it's your phone, Bill. I always see it when you're here. And it's funny because I don't know if I see Love Giga. Oh, here he is. Here's Love Giga. Exactly, exactly. It's not gay daycare. Exactly. That's my thing. It's like freedom of speech type thing. And honestly, if someone trolled me, it's like, please troll me. Like, I don't mind trolls. It's not that I want to be harassed. I'm just saying, like, it's gonna be hard to offend me. I mean, I'm not inviting it, but I'm just saying it's you guys understand the vibe. All right, so let's get back to business. I ain't got no time to play around. What is this? Must be a circus in town. Let's shut the shit down on these clowns. Can I get a witness? Hell yeah. Sorry. I'm tone deaf, okay? But I like to sing. And that song, wow, sorry, that lyric just totally popped into my head. All right, so I believe it was the anxiety that caused this for you. Same thing happened to me. So now Bryan is saying on January 15th, 2011, that it was anxiety. Okay. I guess maybe the neurologist didn't find anything. He said the ophthalmologist didn't find anything. So let's see. Let's see what he says next. All right. So here his next thing. I believe this to be the cause of VS. I'm just laughing to myself because honestly, honestly, sorry, I'm gonna not go in the chat for a few minutes. You guys know I'll come back. I get too distracted because you guys are so much fun to talk to in the chat. I get FOMO when I'm not in the chat, okay? But I'm gonna read this because that's why you guys are here. And this is really interesting, I think. Although I like to interact with you guys too. So. All right, so here's Bryan Kohberger, and he's saying he believes this is the cause of his visual snow. And this is on January 15th, 2011. I have had VS since September 21st of 2009. Since then, I have changed, mainly from the anxiety and sense of derealization and hopelessness. Today, I felt a deep heartbeat in my head, one that felt through my eyes and all over my head. I get this a lot, but never think about it. At times when I lay down and then get up for something, I get this feeling in my head that is weird. And then I see this bright white version of VS. I also feel the beat. My theory is that VS seems to be migraine related. I agree, Bryan, because what you were describing sounded very much like a migraine. We'll talk about that in a second. But in reality, it's just a weird thing that occurs for some people where the arteries and blood vessels in one's head are inflamed for a large amount of time. I am sure no MRI would pick up slight inflammation from the veins, arteries that pump through our heads. I always have this weird feeling in my head, and to me, it feels like something inflamed in my head. We need to try to figure out a way to stop the inflammation. I think that anxiety causes VS. Why do you think migraine pills don't work for VS? Obviously, because we don't have inflamed parts of our brain, we have inflamed blood vessels, veins, whatever you want to call them. All right, so he's trying to be a doctor here, and he's all of what? When was he born, guys? I think he's like 15 years old. Okay, so this is a 15-year-old. Um, This is well, he might be 28 now, although he looks older. I think he looks more, if I had to guess, like 35. But regardless, in this post, he is a 15-year-old Bryan Kohberger. Okay? He's a 15-year-old Bryan Kohberger. And Bryan Kohberger, at 15 years old, seems to think he knows quite a bit about inflammation of blood vessels in one's brain versus inflammation of the brain. And he seems to feel quite confident that he understands this very clearly. I'm only laughing because it's just, wow, very, very cocky, right? Like Mr. Know It All type. I'm not saying he's a bad person, saying that, he really looks into things and he's trying to make sense of things. And that's what we all do. Um, and honestly, maybe I would have written the same thing and people would tell me I was cocky, right? I thought I had it all figured out when I was 15 years old. Nobody could tell me anything. So it's not a bad thing. I'm just trying to envision Bryan Kohberger at 15 years old. What is he like? Well, what we've seen so far, he sounds empathetic. He's like us. He wants to know the details. He's trying to figure it out as much as he can. So he's in this group with other people with visual snow, and let's just call it what it is, VS and migraines and this other stuff. Are these people being targeted in some way? Have these people been in some type of um, position where they were programmed, conditioned? Maybe they signed up for something. Maybe they tested high in some way, in some scores. I mean, this is what the military has done. And Bryan Kohberger wanted to be an Army Ranger. They say that he was kicked out of that program and they won't say why. But what if he wasn't kicked out? What if he was chosen to go somewhere else and train and then told to go study criminology? I mean, there's all sorts of things, right? Those are all speculations, by the way, on my part. I am not saying that that's true. All right, so wait a minute. Let me just see something what this says. All right, so then he says next, I am going to talk. Well, I just want to make sure this is here. He says, I am going to talk to a, all capitals, good neurologist about this, one that is very open-minded. I think this really is the cause. And to rainy days, yes, when I exert myself, I get the pulse vision too. In other topics, people have said they feel weird feeling in their jaw, chest, with no explanation. Well, it might be the arteries being inflamed. It could hurt very bad. This seriously could be an issue that is undiagnosed. Okay, I'm going to tell you what he's doing right here, just from a medical perspective. I want to start up here, though. He says, I am sure no MRI would pick up slight inflammation from the veins and arteries that pump through our heads. Okay. And then his response down here, he wants to talk to a good neurologist about this, one that is very open minded. Okay. Let me just see. And then he says, I believe it to have nerve roots as well as its vein roots and arteries. It seems that this disease we all have is some type of inflammatory disease. In this case, it would be easily treatable. All right, so Bryan is trying to make sense at the age of 15 years old of inflammation in the brain and arteries and migraines and all this sorts of stuff. And he's fumbling through it. And just from a medical perspective, because I am trained in this, guys, he sounds silly, if I'm being honest, but that's only because he's not educated about these things. He didn't do gross anatomy and dissect the body. He didn't take medical courses on anatomy and physiology and clinical diagnosis and treatment and things like that. And so he's piecing all of this together as best he can, trying to help himself. And, he's got a lot of motivation and he's suffering is the main thing to understand here is he's suffering with this and does not feel understood by anyone. Right? So, he's clearly suffering, all right? And what I can gather from what he stated is that he went to the neurologist and they did a full workup. They probably checked him for seizure disorder. They I would, like I said before, he deserved and should have had an MRI and an MRA of the brain so that they can look for odd things such as there's arterial venous malformations, AVMs, that can cause very big problems for people, including migraines, visual disturbance, depending where they're located. Um, but he was not satisfied with this doctor's explanation that you're having migraines. He felt that there was something more to this. And he clearly investigated these things himself, because migraines, if you look at the reason for migraines, I mean, there's all sorts of triggers. Caffeine withdrawal, being people who have caffeine withdrawal headaches are more likely to have migraines. That's just the truth. Okay. People who get motion sickness are more likely to have migraines. This is some genetic cluster. It must be, and I have both of those things, vertigo, forget about it. Seasick, really bad. I can't do those upside down rides. No way. And I definitely get caffeine withdrawal headaches. That's why when you look at Excedrin migraine or Vanquish, medicines that are sold over the counter for headaches, they have acetaminophen, Tylenol, they have aspirin, and they have uh, caffeine. They have caffeine. And they have caffeine because many people don't realize that their pounding headache is from caffeine withdrawal. And so if they just had the cup of coffee that they usually have, they'll be fine. If you decide to go cold turkey on caffeine, you might be totally fine if you don't have that genetic predisposition. But if you do, you're going to suffer a migraine. I've had several of those throughout my lifetime. Brutal. That was before I understood the whole dynamic. It has to do also with vasodilation. They suppose, I don't think that they can actually see it, but they suppose there's a inflammation or dilation of the vessels that cause the migraine. That's why triptans are helpful. These triptans cause vasoconstriction in those specific vessels. And that's why they provide instant release and relief to people who take them. And if you have a really bad migraine and you take a triptan, it could knock you out. I when I've taken them, I would fall asleep. It's like taking a freaking shot of tequila or something, you know? But I'm just saying, Brian's clearly looked into migraines and the causes and theories of what causes migraines and the treatments of migraines. He's looked into inflammation in the body, and, he's actually pretty up to date, 2011. I mean, those he's really going into those forms and stuff. What he doesn't like is that the neurologist he saw told him that he has maybe atypical migraines or neurologic migraines, and he should be taking these things. Uh, it doesn't surprise me now to find out, which I'm sure we'll read about at some point, that he was prescribed Topamax because his visual snow symptoms that he's describing seem to be 24/7. And these headaches that he's describing are very migrainous in nature. A migraine, this is how you know, one of the ways you know if you have a migraine. Okay. One of the ways you know if you have a migraine is, oh, hello, hello. So happy to have you. Miss Potts always calls me queen when I come into her chat, but I honestly believe that she's the queen. So blessed and happy to have you here. All right, so let me just get back to talking about the migraine thing really quickly, briefly, before I forget. Unfortunately, the medical thing comes in, guys, So, migraines, this is how you can distinguish. I'm not diagnosing anyone, okay? Don't anybody get any ideas here. I'm not treating anything. I'm just saying, in general, how you know you have a migraine. Migraines generally they're throbbing. They're usually on one side, usually only on one side. And people who have chronic migraines can usually tell you exactly where their fucking migraine starts and where it is. They'll be like, oh, it starts right here. I get that feeling in the back of my neck. And I know within a few minutes, if I don't take the medicine or I don't know what I'm supposed to do, that mofo is going to go full on blaring. And it's a throbbing. It's the kind of throbbing in the head that you get when you jam your toe into your bed. That kind of throbbing, right? So, bottom line is, imagine you jam your toe into the bed and you have but that throbbing that you feel, that's going on in your head, on the right side of your head. Okay? All right, sorry. Duty calls. Duty calls, my dolls. All right, so anyway, back to this. So the migraine, I know it's worse, Boo. I know it's worse. And that's the next point. This is how you know it's a migraine as well. You guys are telling you guys are isn't this interesting how we all have migraines, guys? Isn't this interesting? I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't have them quite as often, honestly, rarely. Ever since menopause, it's the one thing that happens. And so let's just see here. So they're one-sided, they're throbbing, and when you sit down or when you lay down, they do subside, not all the way, but a little bit. Feels a lot better than if you're walking. If you're walking, oh my lordy. And photosensitivity. That's why if you have a migraine, you'll see people lying flat, shades drawn, eyes covered, all that stuff, right? So Bryan Kohberger clearly had migraines, guys. And what he's describing, these visual things that he's having, okay? The I mean, they can be migraines with aura, all these things. I would imagine the neurologist, like I said, checked them for seizure disorder, EEG, did an MRI, better be checking the vessels, right? Bryan was told he has this, and so he wants more. He wants to be able to discuss with this doctor what the issue is. And look, I get it, but he's also very much focused on it too. And so I don't know. I'm not criticizing. I'm just kind of like talking about it because I want to get to know Bryan through his own words. And I do truly believe that we can learn a lot from this, and I bet you other people have done this, and I'm late to it, but it doesn't matter. I think it's interesting. And at the end of the day, he's 15 years old doing this. I mean, this is incredible, right? Hello, welcome. Painted Desert, how are you? Good to see you. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I know, right? These migraines. All right, so let's get back to this. So, gonna go back now. Here we go. All right. So Bryan just told us he had all this in September 21st of 2009. We went through all of this. All right, now so let's go back again because I really want to go in chronological order, guys. Okay, January 17th, 2000. Okay, yeah, so he's upset now. He wants to go to a good neurologist, a capital good neurologist. I get it. He feels like he was dismissed by the other neurologists. He probably was. Bryan's smart enough. He's starting to have a conversation. He's confident enough with the doctor about the issue. If the doctor, a lot of doctors are dicks, guys. They really are. I've worked with many doctors that are amazing, but just as many that are absolute dicks. Okay. And talk about not questioning. Oh, most doctors do not want to be questioned. Okay. You question them, big mistake on your part. Why, peasant? Why do you think it's okay to question me? I'm a doctor. You're just a peasant, right? We've all met these mofos, right? I've worked with these mofos. But let me tell you something. One thing I didn't let them do is treat me like a peasant, okay? Don't ever let anybody treat you like a peasant. And if you don't know how to not let people treat you like a peasant, I can do a workshop on that. I'm happy to empower many, many people to understand the ways. Right? Good point. You drank a bunch of Mountain Dew. Yeah, playing video games. Absolutely, Miss Potts. You got it. Hey, that quad the quad espresso has such a new meaning now, my love. You had to reduce that's by half. You're we have a lot of things in common, Miss Potts, because first of all, I'm on the quad espresso, iced espresso thing right now. I'm on that kick, okay? I stole your drink. I'm gonna call it the Miss Potts if anybody asks what I'm ordering. But I make it at home, so But yeah, that's a very, very good point. And my thing is this: like, I wish he had someone to talk to that didn't dismiss him or wasn't upset that he asked questions and explained it to him. This is my whole thing with the arrogance of people who practice medicine. It's just beyond. It's beyond. And anyway, let me just move past that. Let's look at what else he's saying here. All right, so we go through that. He talked about, the veins and the roots. He thinks that essentially this visual snow this actually I don't want to skip over this. This is an interesting concept here. All right. Let's really look at what Bryan just said right here. Okay, let's look what he just said. He said, I believe this is on January 18th, 2011. His name is XR Those with Visual Snow, which and look at the join date, guys. 11/1/29. They just love their nines and 11s their ones. But anyway, he believes this visual snow to have its nerve roots as well as its vein roots and arteries. It seems that this disease we all have is some type of inflammatory disease. Well, if he thinks that it has its own nerve roots and veins and arteries, guys, the only thing I can think of that would have its own nerve roots, veins, and arteries that would cause this type of thing would be some type of an implant or chip. So it's one of those things like I gotta go there, guys. Sorry. Again, speculation. This is my psychic talking. Don't anybody get their tits in an uproar over it, okay? Just don't do it. I'm just saying. When he says that he believes this VS to have nerve roots as well as its own vein roots and arteries, that sounds like he's describing some type of implant, okay? I'm just saying. Again, this is just my, you know, just saying. Exactly. Here we go, boo-boos. Here we go. And any nurse you meet, including my own mother, is going to tell you the same thing. I have seen many in our school, young interns and residents in the ER, and I love them for it. Look, the deal is you respect yourself, you respect others. It's my rules on my channel. Don't be a dick. Treat others with respect. I'm like that in real life too. Very simple. You know? Right. That's what I'm saying. All right, so let's go back here. Oh, I'm sorry, doll. I really am. I understand that. I've seen that. I'm sure she loves you like crazy. It's hard with those that you're closest with. Yes, definitely has. Mountain Dew definitely has caffeine. That's what Miss Potts was. I'm sorry. This is why I shouldn't get into chat. Let me get back. Let me get back. Get back to where I once belonged. Get back. Get back. That's one of my favorite Beatles songs, honestly. All right, so let's keep it moving, guys. Let's see. All right, so now Bryan is venturing further into his medical diagnosis. Now, was this before WebMD, guys? When did WebMD become a thing? Do you guys know? Because I know WebMD for many people was they type in their symptoms and WebMD diagnosis is you're dead. And then people would come in and they would be so stressed about this shit on WebMD and I'm like, stop googling your symptoms on the internet. But believe me, I understand why. If I didn't know what I was doing or I didn't do what I did, I would have been doing the same thing. Maybe that's why I did what I did. I don't know. But regardless, he's clearly WebMDing the fuck out of his symptoms, okay? And I am not saying he does. Look, I believe he has migraines. I believe he has these symptoms. He's not on here that often, so I can't really even say it's hyper focus. He's suffering. That's what it is. He's suffering. Is the bottom line. He's suffering. He's trying to help himself as much as he can. And it just doesn't seem like he has the support around. I'm not blaming his parents or anyone. I don't know. What do you guys think? WebMD 1996. That makes sense, actually. All right. Thank you for looking that up. He says, honestly, January 18th, honestly, the test would not pick up inflammation of little veins. They could detect an artery, though, but not always. It is really diagnosed by inflamed veins, arteries. And if you have these symptoms, then you know you have the disease. When I got an optical test done on me, it was shown that my nerves and veins were inflamed. Interesting. For no reason, causing something. Oh, that looked like optic neuritis, but wasn't. It's a tricky disease. How can you explain the fact that all of us can feel the heartbeats all over our bodies, and it is only people who suffer from VS. He writes this in capital letters. It is not irony. It is simply that we all have a condition, as far as I'm concerned. Guys, he, Bryan Kohberger, Bryan Kohberger, you had said that you went to the ophthalmologist and optometrist, although the optometrist really wouldn't. You need to go to an ophthalmologist. That's the medical optometrist. No shade, no shade. Very educated people are but they go to 4 years of optometry school, right? And it's different than medical school, is all I'm saying. They're not medical doctors. It's just different. And if you're having a condition like Bryan was having, you want to see a medical doctor, an ophthalmologist, right? Or a neuro-ophthalmologist specializing in neuro-ophthalmology or something, right? And also just a regular neurologist. So, um, gosh, I went off on a tangent. My lord, sorry guys. Anyway, he went to an ophthalmologist. I thought he said everything was good. Bryan, no, you're telling me now that they found that you had something in your eye that looked like optic neuritis. Bryan, that's really interesting. He's saying that his optic nerves and veins were inflamed. Now, when he says his nerves and veins were inflamed for no reason, causing something that looked like optic neuritis, I'm so curious now about his medical. I could probably figure out what this is. He's definitely um not giving us a good medical report here. He's doing his best. It's not bad. I'm impressed he remembered optic neuritis and how to spell it. He's 15, remember, and a boy. So, but the way he says nerves were inflamed, optic neuritis is typically only in one eye. And people who have optic neuritis, you then have to make sure you're screening them for multiple sclerosis because it's one of the like signs that you just want to make sure. Not everybody that has optic neuritis has MS, okay? And not everybody that has MS has optic neuritis, but they tend to go together. So that's kind of interesting. But it's typically in one eye, it's not in both eyes. So he had inflamed optic nerves in both eyes. What happened to this child? What happened to this child? Okay, is what I want to know. To have an inflammation of both of your optic nerves. Um at 15, no, 14. I'm sure they screened him for MS. And if he had multiple sclerosis and I don't believe he has it, first of all. If he did, and he was a young man at that age, he'd be in a wheelchair. That's a real severe type. So I don't believe he has that at all. That doesn't make any sense. But I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. Okay. So let's see. Interesting. All right, so I think that's his only comment on that one. All right, so then let's go back. Okay, here we go. So then he says on March 5th, 2011, well, holy shit. Sorry. I gotta go up a little bit more. All right, so this person up here writes quite a few symptoms. His problem started 7 years ago with a certain set of symptoms closely related to a vestibular disorder. It wasn't until last year that I started developing eye floaters, after images, and tinnitus after a round of sinus colds and dizziness for months. The vestibular system includes the parts of the inner ear and brain that help control balance. I'm going to just say something, guys. Hold on. Guys, what do you think about this? I think this is Bryan Kohberger up here. Here's my theory, guys. You ready for this? Holy shit. I gotta take, I gotta show you. I gotta show you my face for this one. I really hope you guys understand what I'm gonna say here. Hold on. I gotta, I just have to say it. Because this is interesting. Tell me what you think about this, okay? Look. I'm gonna go back for a second. I want you to notice something. And I could just be going nuts, but I want you to think about something. Right here. Let's go back. There's a point, I promise. I have had it. Okay. Okay. So right here on January 15th, 2011. Okay. January 15th, 2011. Bryan is responding to this person up here. All right. This person up here, we went through this already. I'm not going to go through it again, but his name is Mikkel. And he says he's been a lurker for a little while now to just see what's going on. And now feels like he should share his experience with this. So here goes. And he writes this really long, detailed information. Okay. Like just a ton of information. Okay. And we went through it. Not going to. Sorry, I just kicked myself off like an idiot. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the screen. I'm such an idiot. Sorry. Oh my God. Close. I don't want this. Okay. So back to my point here. Sorry, that was ridiculous. Okay, so this guy goes into all this stuff. This is my point, okay? This guy goes into all this stuff. His name is Mikel, Michael, okay? And then Bryan Kohberger, after 9 months of not saying a word, I'm sure lurking, says, I believe it was the anxiety that caused this for you. Same thing happened to me. Okay? January 15th, 2011. Now, I almost did that again. Now, let me go back because here's what I want to show you now. Okay. Here it is. We went through quite a few posts, and now we're coming up to another one. And vestibular disorder connection. All right. Now, this is March 5th, 2011. And that he's answering. And he had not been on again. He had not written anything. Here's January. He didn't write anything for like a month or so. He comes on. And this newbie shows up again. JR991. The nines and the ones again, guys. Sorry with the numerology stuff, but it makes me nuts. February 28th, 2011. He just joined February 10th, 2011. And he's like, has this idea about, I'm not saying this is the cause of all our problems, but it could be the reason for some of our symptoms. Maybe you can relate. Talks about a vestibular disorder. He goes through all the symptoms he's experiencing. I'm not going to read it. I'd like to get a sense from other members here if they experience these symptoms. And then Bryan Kohberger responds, here. Well, any damage to this part of the brain will show up on an MRI. No damage with mine. This guy writes, the damage is vestibulocochlear nerve, which connects the inner ear to the brain. There's a special test actually for that. Not for the nerve, but for the inner ear. But that's interesting. And this person is talking about vestibular neuritis. So, I mean, I swear some of these people are just agents on here. Here's this other person again. I had vestibular rehab therapy also. I mean, this woman, Sapuli Susie, who was definitely very helpful, just seems to pop up, and some of the people in here are just interesting. And all I'm trying to say is I'm wondering if Bryan Kohberger writes these things and then talks to himself. It's possible. Unfortunately, that's where my mind goes with some of these things, but again, that's just speculation. Seems like an insightful, intelligent, motivated kid who's suffering quite a bit, who isn't able to relate with anybody. That's what I'm getting here. And he just wants this symptom to go away. And on April 21st, 2011, just want to make sure you guys can still hear me. Hello. Oh, thanks, Vanessa. I appreciate that. Okay, so I lived in like quite a few different towns. Reading was the first one, and then gosh, it's interesting. I did live in Southington for a little while. That's so funny. Near the Denny's. I lived in a few different towns though. All right, so let me get back to this. Thanks for being here, guys. Okay, so he says visual snow is caused by toxins in our body. These toxins range from yeast, overgrowth, candida, all the way to fungus. Check out the link for candida. It has almost every VS symptom. He starts talking about sweetener, and toxins, and releasing chemicals. We have toxins so that are okay. Let's see. When something is happening in your brain that shouldn't, chemicals are being released that shouldn't. These chemicals are released because we have toxins that our body doesn't want. It's going haywire. This detox diet has been used to cure many diseases. How to do this diet, know the cause. Don't go to the doctor for a detox. They rip you off. We are lucky as people with VS. I have had all the tests done. My neurotransmitters are fine. My brain is healthy. It's just toxins. Video to watch that explains reality. No longer available. Okay. Sorry, guys. Let me get back here. That's no longer available, that website. Kind of strange, though. Neurotransmitters are fine. I mean, I don't know, boo-boo. I don't know how. If Bryan Kohberger had his neurotransmitters tested in 2011, then he was in a military place, because you don't test neurotransmitters. It's just not, we can't check at that time. I don't even know if they can do it now. Possibly. I don't know. But you can't draw someone's serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine levels up. There's probably a way to do it with MRI imaging and stuff. But that would be highly technical and specialized, so that'd be a little odd. All right. So then it sounds like he's feeling confident. He knows what's going on. This guy says, this really scary pig says, that's basically paleo diet. That's the way I eat for 2 years now. I don't notice any changes on my symptoms. Wish it was that easy. And Bryan responds, no, there are certain things you can't eat on it that you probably ate. Trust me, you didn't. It isn't a paleo diet. I will find out the exact diet plan soon. My friend has it printed. I lost the sheet. And the emoji here is an interesting choice. The emoji that Bryan has here is an interesting choice. Um, and then somebody else writes, oh, he also writes, no, it's detox. This person's wondering if his athlete's foot. Well, your foot fungus and visual snow are both caused by toxins, fungus, yeast. I've been tested for everything. I went to the doctor and he said that everything I had was migraines, which is basically your brain reacting to some type of chemical change. Thus, it acts haywire. What causes these migraines? Toxins. I have some amazing sources. I know people who have experimented with this thing as much as possible. This is the cure, he states in all caps. What is the actual diet? I can't seem to find it. There is printout that my friend has. I will get that and photocopy it and put it on the internet for you to see. I'll get it by tomorrow. Okay, thank you, XR. I'm really finding this website quite interesting. I read the symptoms and I have a bunch of them. I also read the author story and I think I'm going to order some Symbion probiotics. Okay, so then let's see what we have next. Da-dum-dum. Okay. All right, so then let's go to the next page. Guys, like there's 12 pages. We've gone from page 12, page 11, now we're going to do page 10. I have a sense I will not be finishing this evening, but I am going to try to go through this next part. All right, so because this is fascinating, I can't believe I didn't go through these before. And I was starting to go through them. I'm like, why don't I do it with everybody in case other people haven't seen this stuff? I mean, I knew of them. I knew some. I've done videos on the visual snow, but I didn't realize all this was available. It really gives you some insight into Bryan Kohberger. I mean, these are his words. This is how he's talking. And I know he's 15 and things definitely changed since I was 15, the way I talk. But I don't think I ever spoke like this when I was 15. I mean, this is very coherent shit. I feel like I was still in some kind of like half in this world, half in another world state. I daydreamed a lot. All right. So he says, well, okay. We talked about this. All right. We did that one already. Sorry. You go back here. I cannot believe I just did that again. That might be a sign for me to sign off here because I'm signing myself out. And it's my second live actually today, which I was happy to do. I just wish that I didn't. Hold on, let me go back to this. That's not it. Okay, here we go. All right, so there. Let me see what's left here. Okay. Please post back the diet. I would be willing to try this. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Oh boy, where am I? StreamYard. Holy cow. Oh my god, I'm losing it. Guys, I am like, wow. Mm-hmm. Yep. So guys, I am clearly too tired to be operating my computer at the moment. I do want to talk more about this stuff. There's a lot of other stuff I just caught a glimpse of, but I'm fading. So thank you guys so much for being here for the second live that I did. And I'll be back tomorrow. I am gonna go over the Turtle Boy thing. I do find that interesting. And I'm gonna try to make it up to his next court appearance. And I'm gonna continue on this. So that's what's up, guys. Have a good night.